Hey, this is Brad Costanzo from Digital Triggers.
And hey, this is Sweeney Daniel from Bacon Wrapped Business.
Now, if we just confused you a little bit, this is actually Brad from Bacon Wrap Business and Sweeney from Digital Triggers. We are doing something a little different here. We are doing a, what would you call this, Sweeney?
It's kind of a double cast.
Ooh, trademark term. So Sweeney is the host of Digital Triggers, one of the top business podcasts and digital marketing podcasts on iTunes. And obviously, I run Bacon Wrap Business, also on iTunes. And we decided to do a video interview where we interview each other and both share this on each other's shows respectively. So there'll be a little bit of duplicate content out there on the iTunes world. I don't know if this has ever been done, has it?
I don't think so.
I
mean, I imagine at least somewhere, right? But I mean, the basic principle is if you listen to your podcast, you're probably like you might hear me and go, hey, I want to listen to more of his stuff. They're probably not going to go over and listen to you again, right? They already listen to all your stuff.
Exactly.
They're going to want to check out my other stuff. And if they listen to my podcast and go, hey, like Brad, they're going to want to check out your other stuff.
I like it. See, we got two podcasting icons, self-proclaimed kings of the podcasting world. And so for my listeners, real quick, Digital Triggers with Sweeney is one of the best podcasts out there, all things digital and online marketing. Dude, you interview some of the top people out there as well. And we've been friends for a while. That's why I thought this would be fun to jump on a co-call, and we'll see where this goes. We're going to talk a lot about podcasting today. And if you want to introduce me to your folks.
Yeah, definitely. So what we do is Tuesdays we have a guest interview, and then on Fridays we do something called the Friday Reload, which is where I kind of recap what happened in the week and cover some of the biggest updates, news stories, and new things that came out. Now, Brad has a very, very awesome podcast as well, and him being based over in California, he's connected to a lot of superstars. So we tend to get more entrepreneurs, whereas Brad as well gets entrepreneurs, but he also has people like, high-level guest speakers and book authors and, these kind of names that you maybe have never heard of, but they've secretly pulled so many strings in the background.
So let's see where this goes. As I said, it's kind of weird. Normally I'd be interviewing you or you'd be interviewing me. We'd be pulling questions out, but we're going to have a conversation between the two of us and just let other folks eavesdrop on what we're talking about. And today I think one of the first things we're going to talk about is podcasting in general, because we both got two hit podcasts. And then after that, let's talk about consulting, because we both do consulting for fee and for fun. So let me ask you first, Sweeney. So when did you launch Digital Triggers?
So Digital Triggers launched about 5 months ago,
Cool.
Give or take. We had an initial launch, a little bit of a rebrand, and that's where we are now. I think
Nice.
we recently released I think we're nearing about 70 episodes or so total.
Really? Yeah, I think you got about double that I've got. I try to get one out every week, but sometimes, life gets in the way and not quite able to do that. I launched in June. And we're in December now, so I guess I'm right at my 6-month mark, actually. So, boom, boom,
Congratulations.
boom. Thank you very
We
much.
can both celebrate our 6-month anniversaries.
Exactly. So, what would be a great question for listeners to know? I mean, there's the starting a podcast, there's the marketing a podcast. Actually, let's jump into this because, we like to share actionable information. The people who listen to our shows usually, there's some beginners out there trying to really get started. But the thing is, there's a lot of information for beginners out there, and there's not as much information for what happens when you actually get successful and what happens when you make it and how do you grow your podcast once it gets going. But for just to really briefly cover for folks out there who are thinking about starting one, highly recommend it. It's way easier to do than you would think. It is. We're right now on Skype. I'm using Ecamm's call recorder. A lot of times you use Google Hangouts. I've got my microphone, my AT2020. You don't need it. We could be broadcasting. Are you using your earbud?
No.
You're just using that
I got
to
the
there you
Yeti
go.
over here.
Big baller.
Got the full podcasting setup.
I like it.
But no, I mean, I got started with a snowball mic that was like, $60-$50 maybe.
Right.
And it's like anything too. Honestly, like my recommendation with podcasting would be go do 10 and then you'll stop sucking. I remember I think one of the third guests I ever interviewed was Ryan Holiday.
Nice.
And I always read his blog. I always looked up to him. So, here's my third guest, and he's one of probably one of the biggest quote unquote guests I've interviewed, at least in my opinion. And that's just kind of how it goes.
Right. So what have you done to grow your show?
So for us, we were lucky to have a list that we could leverage. When we initially first launched before, we had a podcast about a very hot topic, a very hot subject with a expert in the industry, Ben Atkins. And we kind of gated that content too. So we were able to grow our Facebook page and really kind of create a splash in our local community or our local tribe. And a lot of people knew about it and were talking about it.
So tell me about the light gating, what you did. I kind of know what you did, but I'd love to hear exactly what you did. And I know the listeners would.
So this, I mean, we don't need to dive into it too much because Facebook's actually kind of recently banned.
I've heard that, yeah.
For the most part. So the way we had it was you had to either like the page or I'm pretty sure tweet the page in order to unlike the content. And it's pretty easy. I mean, there's a few different plugins around there. Really the key is having something that people want to hear about with someone that they want to hear about it from. And by really capitalizing on something that was popular and that was trending. I mean, we see bloggers do this kind of stuff all the time. The 7 things you didn't know about Adrian Peterson, right? That's going to do very big because there's so much media attention and hype surrounding it. So I had a post too once on the what I learned from the Wolf of Wall Street. And that actually started as that grew from a PS line in an email. I said, PS, if you want to see my notes, reply to this email that I'm excited for tomorrow. And we had, almost more responses than we'd ever gotten, trying to hype people up for something. And I just threw it in there to see if there was any interest. I already had, some notes on my iPhone and what I remembered. So I was like, let me toss out the notes if people are interested. And the response was overwhelming. I actually made it into a blog post and a podcast, and it did extremely well because people were interested. It's topical. I mean, I had an interview with Colin Terrio, and he's got a large group. He's got a large influence. So I was able to post in his group. And when I posted in his group, I gave something away for free, and I was able to kind of leverage that audience. So I think that can be a big part of content creation.
What'd you give away for free?
We had a top 50 best subject lines.
Oh, cool. I like it.
PDF. So it was a bonus that we had for a product. So I decided to put it in there, and it was relevant to their copywriting group.
No, that's great.
And I think that's kind of the problem with content creation, though, is it's hard to create and push something out in 7 days that's going to be topical and then still have kind of your more regular content. So it's finding a balance.
That's great. Now on the light gating, real quick, because I do know that Facebook is cracked down a little bit on that, but were you doing that on a Facebook page, like they had to like it and then on or were you doing this on your regular website?
We were doing it on the blog.
Okay. And is that true they're no longer liking that? Because I know there's
as far as I'm aware of, the direction that they're taking in general is that they don't want people to be forced to like things anymore. They want people to kind of really like things because they want to like things. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So they only want, they don't want you just
incentivizing
being a fan of anyone. Yeah. They want people to actually like pages because they like pages, or at least from what I've seen.
Okay. Okay, excellent. Yeah, and that's good to know, and that's good for everybody to know. I mean, Facebook is, if you're marketing online, you're not marketing on Facebook, you're missing out on a lot. But Facebook's always changing things and keeping marketers jumping through hoops. They're not as strict as Google, but they'll probably be there before, too terribly long.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different interesting ways you can do content promotion nowadays, and that's where I was talking about something that's topically relevant because there's a very cool tool called BuzzSumo. Okay. Now on BuzzSumo,
I'm going to write that down because I'm not familiar with BuzzSumo.
Go for it. It gets a little confusing because there's SumoMe, there's King Sumo, there's AppSumo. There's a lot of sumo getting thrown around. Like one is by Noah Kagan, one's not. But you can use BuzzSumo, and Brian Harris from Video Fruit, credit where credit is due, kind of popularized this. Say I search for the Wolf of Wall Street. I can look at different articles about the Wolf of Wall Street, and I can see in order by which one has the most shares. I can dive in deeper and look at the Twitter users specifically that shared that article. Now, if you want to take it another step further, so I mean, those are people you can promote to, but you can take it another step further, and there's different ways that you can guess someone's email address and send out a cold email and basically be like, hey, I saw you like this article on Forbes about the Wolf of Wall Street. I actually just saw him recently in person, and I wrote up some notes I had about it in a blog post. You know, I'd love for you to check it out. Or like I interviewed Brad Costanzo. I noticed that you liked a few of his podcasts. I think you might like this interview with him. Go here to check it out.
So you're saying these are the people that you found them where? Like if they liked the podcast?
Well, I'm saying they shared this article initially.
Oh, the ones who shared it. Right. Like on Twitter.
Exactly.
For instance, oh, hey, you shared this. You might like this as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Derek Halpern on Social Triggers has a really cool strategy. It's back on his blog. I know I've shared it somewhere. I'll try to share this in the notes. I'm going to put this here, share Derek's thing where he talks about getting into the slipstream of press. So like, yeah, when when a journalist writes about a specific topic, and if you really want to get a hold of them, creating content for them, doing a very, very similar thing, like, adding value. I won't go into it here, and I may not be able to do it justice just off the top of my head, but I'll put some show notes on there. But it's really powerful, piggybacking, doing a little extra research, doing a little extra work to find out who are the influencers, who are the people sharing stuff, and give them more things to share, more topics.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing with content, and this is a problem that everyone has. And, I know even us as podcasters, when you're releasing a podcast a week, 2 podcasts a week, you don't always give each one the love and attention that it deserves. And so often, if you're not baking in the bacon into it, and the bacon being the content promotion, it's only going to do so well compared to if you reach out to some of these influencers and you have an idea of, how can I spread this content? And that's one of the things that I struggle with interviews is, it's good content, but if it's not really formed around one subject enough, how can you advertise it? How can you reach people? How can you find people that you can contact with it? So
that's great. Now, have you done any advertising for your podcast? Do you do any Facebook ads or anything paid in order to get people?
We don't do any current paid. We're looking into YouTube and Twitter a little bit more.
Right. Yeah, Twitter ads. I may have Los on to talk about that, because I know that our friend Los Silva has been really diving into Twitter ads and kind of figuring that aspect out. And it's one of the things that I'm not really familiar with. I know the most basic stuff about Twitter ads.
So doing the Friday reload, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen kind of the evolution of Twitter ads over the past 6 months. Sadly, I haven't dug in and spent enough money to, talk from that side. But from the news side, as a reporter, for lack of a better term, they are really freaking trying. I mean, that's the reality. You see them always putting out these new, Twitter cards and new features and buy now buttons and, retargeting and custom audience or tailored audiences. Like the same way that, kind of Facebook changed in the past to, really tailor it to marketers. Twitter is really putting the effort and saying, hey guys, come and spend your money with us and we will take care of you. And I heard, it's pretty easy to get a Twitter rep. And they will hold your hand for the first month, and then you should be good to go.
That's great. And, it's funny to watch the evolution of some of these platforms. So whenever a company is it's weird to call Twitter up and coming, but they are up and coming, and advertising is
on a revenue standpoint.
Right.
Definitely.
And on ads, yeah, it's new to them. And whenever something's new, they're willing to let you have a lot of leeway in order to get, and the early adopters and getting them spending money. And then they crack down later on, just like Google did. Facebook now, you used to be able to throw anything up on Facebook. Now it's harder and harder to get things approved. It's easier and easier to get kicked off. And
back in the day with Google, I mean, they were lenient as could be because
right.
when they need you, and then it happens and it shifts. And if you get in early enough, though, you should kind of see the shift coming and be able to adjust to it.
Right. And, the key really is to, push the envelope as much as you can. Walking the line is actually very, walking the edge is a very smart thing to do, as opposed to just staying so purely white hat in the early days. Now, once you get to that critical mass, like Facebook, I say walk the straight and narrow on that now, because it's too valuable to get banned from. We've both got friends who've been banned, and when you lose your rights to advertise or you lose your profile in general, it really stinks. But in the beginning, it's always good to push the envelope a little bit, see what you can do.
Well, and too, I mean, if you're gonna take that approach, there's platforms that accept that money.
Right.
You know, there's different, you know, whether it's media buying and, you know, pop unders, and we had, you know, Charles Kirkland on. He talked about some of these platforms. And it's not to say that they're dirty platforms or anything like that, but they're a lot more lenient with what they'll let you get away with. So if that's kind of your style, then go to something that plays to that strength rather than going with one of these kind of cleaner startup-y kind of companies.
Right. And to clarify, none of what I'm talking about is, you know, do things that are illegal or do things that are immoral, but it's, you know, sometimes on Facebook they don't want you to run ads to either certain niches or certain types of pages or whatever. And when you can do that, whether it's with Twitter, whether it's with YouTube, although YouTube is Google, but
YouTube is very lenient right now.
Exactly, because they're trying to get more advertisers.
I have a buddy who's done very well with YouTube ads, and I'm starting to run some YouTube ads myself, and YouTube is very lenient right now.
Ooh.
You have to play by their rules.
Right. Don't
get me wrong, but you know they give you some wiggle room.
Yep. So tell me about some of the stuff you're about to or doing on YouTube right now. That's the topic of a future podcast that I've got coming up in January with a YouTube expert named Tommy Powers. But we're going to be diving into this.
So the basic part of it is a good buddy of mine, or, you know, becoming a good buddy of mine, spent, you know, around, let's say, under $1,000 and made about $38,000 in affiliate commissions. And you know, he did capitalize on a launch. It was the ASM launch.
Oh yeah.
And he did very well with it. But the cost of clicks are so cheap. And here's the big reason why I like YouTube, right? How many freaking people do you know, friends of ours, that are afraid to do this, to shoot a video?
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
If only 10% of people are even willing to shoot a video, how many people you think are going to shoot a video and do advertising?
Yeah.
So I think that the
higher barrier to entry for
exactly, and the competitiveness, I think, over there is going to always be small. And everyone knows YouTube is so huge, but we just kind of forget about it because as marketers, we skip ads and other people skip ads, and we think, oh yeah, no one's seeing this, but people see ads.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reality of the internet. Facebook news feeds, you know.
You only need, because I mean, a good click-through rate on something, it's a couple percent, right? A good click-through on an ad. That means like 98% of people, 98% of people could be telling you to, like, ignoring you, not even seeing you, but you can make a fortune off a couple percent.
And we know how crazy VSLs can convert. I just had Costanosis, I can never pronounce his name, from Doodle Video on. And why those Doodle videos work so well is because they hack our subconscious and they play to our childlike symptoms. We're so used to watching cartoons as children. And it's entertainment, right? I mean, how infotainment is like the biggest thing of, you know, 2014 or coming around after 2010.
Yep.
If you're doing good marketing, you're entertaining. What has Kern done extremely well?
Oh yeah.
You know, with that, when he had like that fake cop thing, it was just entertaining. It was funny.
Yeah.
People want to be entertained.
We all do.
And then if they realize at the end of 5 minutes, oh hey, I just got pitched on this thing, but this thing sounds kind of cool. Guess what happens? They're probably gonna buy, or at least they're gonna hear your pitch.
We all want to buy from people we know, like, and trust. And how do you get people to like you? You entertain them. I mean, when I came up with, people ask me, why'd you call it Bacon Wrap Business? Although, you know, most people love the name, you know, because it's bacon. But that's exactly why. That right there is it. Number one, you know, I'm piggybacking off another meme, kind of like you said with. You said, oh, who wants my notes on my, you know, when I watch The Wolf of Wall Street. So bacon is a big meme right now. Oh, everything's better with bacon, and you see it in Facebook everywhere. I came up with it by accident, just saying, man, that's some Bacon Wrap Business advice right there. I was like, yeah, that's kind of a catchy name. But more than anything is it gives me permission to have fun. It gives me permission to be entertaining. I didn't just want to call it the Brad Costanzo Show because I wouldn't listen to the Brad Costanzo Show. That bores me, and it bores me to jump on here. But if I can have puns and play on words, and that's a Bacon Wrap Business strategy right there if I ever heard one, you know, just little stuff.
Or you look at guys like Pat Flynn, you look at guys like John Lee Dumas.
Yep.
It's Smart Passive Income. It's Entrepreneur on Fire. I mean, using your own name is very rare unless it's the Tim Ferriss Show.
Right.
James
Altucher.
Made yourself the brand.
Right, exactly. Now, notice one of the things I did is I didn't just call it Bacon Wrap Business. The name of the show is Bacon Wrap Business with Brad Costanzo. I'm luckily that my name has some alliteration in there, it kind of works. The B, C, Bacon, Brad Costanzo, etc. But and I did that very much on purpose because I'm trying to help build my brand along with the name of it as well. So a little bit of both.
I do love the name too. For the record, I think it was super smart.
Thank you. Well, I thought
it adds flavor. Literally.
Yeah.
Like so often, like things are so dry.
Exactly.
And one of my favorite guys for this is Conterio.
Yeah.
And he's always like, polarize people, make people hate you, because if people hate you, then people are gonna love you.
Yeah.
And in this day and age, you don't need everybody to kind of sort of like you. Right? Have you ever gotten a girl to be your girlfriend because she kind of sort of liked you?
No.
It's the same way with people buying things. They're not going to buy because they kind of sort of like you. They buy because they're
love you
bought
or hate you.
in.
Yeah, it's the the extremes are good, and I've personally had a problem with that. I have a hard time making people hate me. I love taking controversial issues. I don't do them a lot. I'll do them a lot in my personal life. I love getting into arguments. I love taking devil's advocate on stuff. I don't do it much in on the show, but I'll entertain the heck out of you, or I'll at least try.
It's funny because I had a book idea. I'll tell you off the air.
Yeah.
And I realized that basically the headline ended up being 666. And I was like, it was unintentional. But
Wait, what do you mean the headline was 666?
Well, like there's it's a play on numbers and
oh,
such.
I gotcha. Okay.
So it ends up being like 666 is built into it. And everyone always makes these Illuminati jokes.
Right.
But I was in the same way that Ryan Holiday kind of did this media hacking. I was like, man, that would probably be a good story that I could spin and press out and have some people arguing and talking about my book and how it's evil.
Yeah.
And a lot of times any press is good press. Before you know it, you're on the Today Show trying to defend yourself as to why you aren't this or that. Hey, as long as you're on the show, you're good.
Sometimes it only takes one thing. And so you mentioned Ryan Holiday, and I always recommend his book, Trust Me, I'm Lying. What is it? Confessions of a Media Manipulator. And it's such a great book, and it really shows you how the news and blog sphere works and operates right now. One of the things that I wish that he would have done more so is talk about how to, because I've been able to put it together just because I'm brilliant. But I've been able to put together how to use that for good, because he really talks about all the ways it's been used for negative, or just going for negative press and publicizing people like Tucker Max, who's very polarizing, and other folks. But really understand how to newsjack and do things in a way that gets publicity
in an honest way.
Well, not even just honest,
well,
but maybe like in a positive way, right?
We both know if I have my life savings and we're sending out an email, and one says bad news and one says good news.
Bad news wins.
Which one you putting your money on?
Absolutely. That's why.
So it's the sad reality of the media sphere that, with the exception of a site like Upworthy, that kind of pulled at your emotional strings, that typically these kind of bad news stories bubble to the top.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to play off that. Though I do agree, it is interesting to think, how can I do this with good news?
Yeah.
But I think the answer there is what I really liked is how he talks about kind of just trading up in the media sphere, and that's, you don't just end up on ABC News. You end up on a small blog, and then you take that to and it's the same way with guest interviews too. Like, you get this guest, and then from that you get this guest, and then he has people he can introduce you to.
That's why I've got you on my show, just so that I can now get anybody. I'm calling Bill Gates after this.
Well, I mean, and it's the reason why I joined certain mastermind groups.
Yep.
Or there's this one Zentrepreneur group, and I joined that, and it's like $100 a month, something ridiculously cheap.
Is that Visions or somebody else's?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
I joined it because I had a JIT on the show.
And
the reason why I like any of these mastermind groups, you have to be careful with what you're getting, what you're paying for. Even when I've had the pleasure of being able to go to War Room a few times, or something like Boardroom. What you're getting that people don't realize is that you're paying the litmus fee to know that anyone you're dealing with is a lot more serious.
Yep.
A lot more serious. They most likely at least have a real business, and I think, and this is something that I had thought, and hey, maybe I'll do it for you guys for boardroom. I was joking that, someone could hire my mom at 36 grand a year just to know every single person that comes through your mastermind, they get a welcome call. We're taking notes. We're finding out what's going on with your business, how we can help you, so that every time someone comes through, we're matching people up. And we're just like an entrepreneur matchmaking service.
That's exactly what. Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing at the boardroom, my mastermind. And what was this about hire your mom though?
I was just joking that you don't need someone who's very talented.
Are you talking about to take the notes and to?
Yeah,
right.
You just need someone who's nice and likes talking on the phone. Right?
That's what my trusty assistant Nancy does. Exactly.
There you go.
Yep.
You just need a Nancy.
Yeah.
And the value is it's one deal. That's all it ever takes. It's one deal, and the mastermind either pays for itself for the year or pays for itself 10 times over.
You're right. One of the funny things is when I started off in the business, I wasn't totally broke. I wasn't rich, but like 8 years ago, I had a little savings, but I held on to it really, really tightly and just like, no, I've got to save every single penny because who knows if this is going to work or not. And that's important to do. I mean, it's important to be frugal, but the most success I've ever had is through the relationships, and the best relationships I've ever had are through masterminds, and the best masterminds are paid masterminds, and the more you pay, the better access to people you get. And it's really kind of funny, like if I was going to do it all over again, instead of investing 6 figures on do-it-yourself education, I probably would have just skipped the head of the line and joined the biggest mastermind that I could afford. Just because if you do that, even if you don't have a huge business, but you're trying to get it, if people know that dude, you just threw down 1,000, 5,000, 10, 20,000.
It doesn't have to be a lot.
No, it doesn't really have to be a lot. But when you do that, when you demonstrate that look, I'm willing to pay for access to folks, there's magic in that. People say, okay, cool, you're serious. I like you. Let's do business.
Well, and here's the difference, right? $100 means that I can Facebook message any of these people and say, hey, I saw you're an entrepreneur too, and that's how you connect with people. How do you network? By having something in common. What did we have in common? We had in common a great friend. Right. So it's not a big surprise that me and you became good friends.
Exactly.
And having that kind of gateway, it's the same thing with War Room, or even when I go to events. I mean, I was at an event recently in Austin, and day one, I talked to a few people. It was really focused on working and training. But eventually, I just kind of said to myself, I want a goal that I want to meet 40 people. I just want to completely just throw it and cast it aside. Not be shy, because when you're at an event, just walk up and shake anyone's hand. That's you
what people are at.
Have a reason.
That's what people are at an event for.
And I find
that would be a great podcast topic, by the way, is event networking. Okay. Keep going.
No, I like it because I don't think anyone does it well enough. The people I talk to, I can see.
I consider myself an expert networker, and I don't even think I do it as well as I could. It's one of those things. And the more, just kind of side trail here for a second, the more events that I go to and the more people that I know at them, I find myself sticking in my comfort zone, because now I'll go to most events and know 5-10 people there, and I'll just end up in that little clique, and maybe 1 or 2 more people end up joining, and then the next event I see them at or whatever, and that's cool. But that just gave me a great idea for a podcast topic, so thank you.
Awesome. And maybe you can do a solo cast.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me because, growing up, part of the reason why I did well with women is because I could go to a party and know one person, and for whatever reason, I'd make a bunch of friends by the end of it.
Right. You're friendly. Dude.
And yeah, I'm a friendly guy. But, even with events, and this is a big, big, big tip for anyone in our space, I'm behind the laptop. I'm by myself all day. Yeah. You're currently behind a laptop. You are currently by yourself. If you have any ounce of charisma, so many entrepreneurs out there just want to chat.
Yeah.
I mean, I cold called for our paid membership site called the Academy. I cold called 2 people because they'd mentioned offhand in a webinar that they were doing something and having success with it. I cold called them. Both of them picked up and talked to me for 30 minutes plus on the phone.
That's great.
And then one of them ended up coming back and doing a training with us. I just cold called these people, and they had no idea who I was, but yet they picked up the phone and were willing to talk for 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's amazing that most people, like, so few of us use the phone anymore for talking. Isn't it kind of funny? We text each other, we email each other, we Skype each other, and it's very rare that a lot of folks, I mean, in any business now, pick up the phone. Everybody's just like, text me. And I've got friends, we both have a close friend who doesn't set up their voicemail box. That drives me nuts.
My voicemail box is actually not set up right now, so.
But how often do I call you? I text you,
Sure.
I do stuff like that. So we all do that. But the whole point of that being is that if you just pick up the phone and talk, people will pick up the phone and talk to you. People still like to have
But my
conversations.
point here too is that, like, you would be surprised at the amount of 7-figure entrepreneurs that you can achieve access to, right?
Okay.
If you Facebook message Frank Kern, you're probably not going to get a response.
Mm-hmm.
You bug someone like John Reese, or even Kent. Kent's a pretty busy freaking dude.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of guys that are very successful in making a lot of money that you can easily reach. Now, I will say one caveat to the whole event networking and the paid mastermind thing. You have to have something that you're bringing to the table. Don't think, and I saw, so I was at the Machine Live event, and it's a $2,000 course, and then you got to pay for airfare and hotel and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's at least $3,000 altogether. There was a decent amount of people there that were kind of there with a business that either had nothing to do with that, and I was just like confused. I was like, why are you guys here? Or they didn't really have much of a business going.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a service, you don't have a skill, you don't have a business, you don't have a list, what good is it if you meet any of these people? You know?
Right.
I don't want to meet a book publisher tomorrow if I don't have a book idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to help me at all. So I think that's worth noting. And I think so often people don't take the time to actually become useful in some way.
Well, and one of the, to extrapolate on that point, you don't have to have a great product, service, skill set to be useful, but the way you be useful is you learn to ask the right questions. So one of the questions that I started asking, like I ask a lot of people just in person, but I also ask on Bacon Wrap Business podcast at the end of the show is something like, what nut are you trying to crack in your business right now? I kind of like that phrasing. Or what are you trying to get more of? A lot of people say, what's the biggest challenge you're having right now in your business? I don't love that. Number one, I think it's overdone. Maybe it's just because I hear it so much and it loses a little bit of its effectiveness. That's why I like to say, what nut are you trying to crack? Who are you trying to meet? What, is there anybody you would hire, you're looking to hire if you could? What skill set are you looking for in your business? And just by asking those questions, I may not have those, but I may know somebody who does. But more importantly, even if I don't know that person and I want to be of value to them, I can go look for them. So if I meet you and I think you're a pretty big deal and I want to help you out, and there's nothing in my personal life that can do it, if I ask these right questions of what you're looking for, and I do it in a very authentic way, that gives me the ability to go search for that. So when I find it, I say, hey, Sweeney, we met at XYZ event, and you told me that you were looking for somebody to, comb your beard and feed you grapes, because who's not, right? By the way, nice beard you got going on there.
Yeah,
Beard brothers.
Yeah, girlfriend doesn't love it, but
no, mine's a little shaggy. I haven't trimmed it down in a while, but
well, if you have the clean sides, you can get away with it.
Oh, there you go. But point being, I can contact you and say, hey man, I found somebody and I thought of you and I wanted to make this introduction. Or right there, even if I didn't have anything else going on, just by asking the right questions. Another book that I love, and I'll make a recommendation here. It's on Amazon. It's called I think it's called Power Questions. I'll send you a link. We can both put it in the show notes or whatever. But it's a great book. I've taken a lot of notes on it of, just and I think I may have gotten that one, what nut are you trying to crack or something like that from there. But what challenge are you trying to overcome? That's also a great one to do, by the way, at an event if there's a public speaker. And a lot of times they open up for questions at the end of the conversation. You can walk up and maybe pay them a compliment, but then ask them that question. What, what resource are you looking for more of in your life? Everybody wants more of something. They want something they either don't have, they want more of something, or they're looking for a relationship or an introduction. And instead of asking for something, it's a great way, instead of asking for something from me, I'm asking something so I can give to you. But that's a whole topic of another show, is just relationship building.
It's a good point. And I mean, even if you're newer to the game, figure out a way that you can work for some people for free. Yeah. Figure out a way that you can generate results and then just leverage that. I mean, I've done enough of these interviews now that I've learned from people being successful that it's pretty easy. Yeah. You get this much success, you build on it, you build on it, you build on it, you build on it. I mean, Kevin Nations, I don't know how much he's charging now, but do you think he started out charging that much?
No.
No. He started out like anyone else, charging, a reasonable fee. Not that his fees are unreasonable, but and then his confidence in results, and then he grew from there.
Yep. Well, and charging fees for coaching, consulting, for, and that kind of segues off of the podcast. Actually, we didn't even really talk about podcasting that much, but that's cool. I like where this is going, and I think it's fun.
We kind of talk content, and emotion, and such.
A little bit. And by the way, there's no need to start a new podcast. You're not going to compete with Digital Triggers and Bacon Wrap Business anyway. No, I'm joking. Point being, we were talking about consulting and charging large fees. And I consult businesses and individuals in a variety of ways. Actually, this has been one of my, I guess, not stumbling blocks, but one of my challenges is I feel as though I'm a jack of all trades when it comes to marketing and business. I know a lot. I'm highly curious. I learn a lot, and I can help a lot of people. But narrowing down to one specific subject that I feel is my superpower has always been a challenge for me. But one of the things that I do really enjoy is showing experts how to charge what they're worth by examining the real value they bring. And along those exact lines, like you mentioned, Kevin Nations, who's a big coach and consultant and teaches people how to do that exact same thing, is get really paid what you're worth and charge a lot more. And I've found that there's a change that happens in a person's brain when they pay your client, when they pay 10 times more than they ever thought they would for a coaching or consulting relationship. Because number one, now they're investing in themselves. They're no longer investing in you. Like, Sweeney, if I come to you and say, listen, I want you to coach me on how to start a great podcast, and you go, great, I'll charge you $97. I'll charge you $500, or I'll charge you by the hour, right? Okay, I'm gonna put a little bit in, as much as I can afford, and maybe $500 is everything in the world to me, right? Maybe it is, and that's different story. But maybe you charge me $5,000 or $10,000 for consulting with you, and that makes me really sit back, swallow my not my pride, but think, okay, if you're charging me, if you're doing what I want to be doing, and you're obviously a success at it, and I know that is a place that I want to be. I want to be in your shoes soon, and you're charging me $10,000. I'm no longer asking myself, okay, is Sweeney worth $10,000? If I already believe that you've got the skills and education and or ability to teach me, I'm thinking, I'm betting $10,000 on myself. Like, am I going to do what it takes to live up to Sweeney's charge, to work when I don't feel like it, to do all this? Because if I pay you $10,000 and I lose it, I lost it. You didn't lose it for me. As long as I do what you say. And there's a switch in somebody's brain that I like selling at that angle. I'm not cheap to work with, and I like selling at that level. Like, I'm going to make it hurt for you to fail yourself. But if you pay me that, if you invest in that with me, you'll also know that it flips a switch in the coaches and the consultant's mind that I'm going to do whatever it takes to get you a fast return on your investment and then a forever return on your investment afterwards. It's I don't know, I love consulting and coaching, and I love charging a lot of money because it makes me work 10 times harder and it makes my clients work 10 times harder.
Yeah. And the sad reality is how often, you charge someone a decent fee, and they just don't do anything.
Right.
I mean, it's the same way when someone buys your course and then they're like, oh, this $500 course is shit. And you're like, well, did you make it through module 3? And they're like, no.
Yeah.
Did you do the demographic research? No. It's like, you learn time and time again how some of these fundamentals, like demographic research, customer avatar, they are not sexy, but you hear them time and time again for a reason. And similar to consulting or being a service provider, a part of it is qualifying your clients so that you don't take bad clients.
Oh, man.
If you hear that, you know, I guess, I mean, I don't want to pick on girls, but basically if you hear that a girl, you know, she's kind of hot, but she's a little crazy, and then you date her anyways, and you find out she's a little crazy, guess whose fault was that is?
Yep. Yeah.
And it's the same way with clients. Like, if you take on a client that truly can't afford you or doesn't really have much of a business, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard it say that sales is really a game of disqualification. Disqualify every single person you can to get down to those handful of people. In direct response marketing, I brought this up the other day on, just a minute ago, not the other day, with ads, click-through rate. Well, a really good conversion rate on a sales letter is 3%. You can make millions of dollars if 97% of people are not interested in your stuff, but 3% of the right people are, right? So you're trying to disqualify everybody except those 3%, or, you know, maybe a little more, that are really, really interested in what you have to sell. And yeah, so identifying the right client, but then also realizing that most people, like you said, don't do anything. How many people have purchased information products and never opened them? I've done that.
Yeah, I was going to say, how many things have I bought that I haven't watched all over open?
So while you were saying that, I just pulled up on my other monitor over here, my friend Jim Fortin, who's a future guest on my show, and he just posted this on December 10th on his Facebook, and I'll read it because it's appropriate for this. He says, interesting. I recently did some social research. In a large Facebook real estate group, I created a post that got the biggest response the group has ever had, which was how to be a top 1% real estate agent. I offered my Zero Effect Selling audio program, a 7-hour program that normally costs $500, to anyone who wanted to grow their sales. I offered it for free, but I did ask that they make a $20 donation to Feeding America. 417 people downloaded it. I literally gave away $200,000 in training. I just did an accounting. I tracked downloads and communication back to me. Of the 417 people who downloaded it, how many people do you think responded even thank you? Like, do you have I hate when people ask me this, so because you know,
maybe 30. I don't know.
Eight people responded afterwards and said thanks. I even followed up with each person asking if they got it downloaded, which I knew they did as I tracked it. Just 8 people went the extra mile. Number one, to say thanks, and then later on I was talking to him because I texted him. I said, hey, how many people actually downloaded it? And that number was, I think, like maybe 40 people downloaded it. So people would go through the process of buying it, like with a coupon or whatever, and nobody even downloaded it. There's so much information people don't take action on. Anyway, that's a tangent I have, and it's one of the things that's kept me personally from creating information products in the business building, profit building, internet marketing space. Is my time's too valuable to create products that other people aren't going to use. I would much rather work with individuals who have established business and work with them one-on-one, consult and coach them, or invite them to join my mastermind or something like that. I like this. I like working with people, seeing their faces, seeing results in their bank account, as opposed to just info products. But that's just me.
Yeah, it's a struggle, because obviously you can reach a lot more people with info products, and you do get the people that dissect the whole thing, build a big business, and then ping you back a screenshot and you go, oh my God, you know, they've exceeded me.
Exactly.
And it's a tough balance. I mean, I do think for the people out there, though, that are struggling, it's find what's working for someone else, and then figure out what they used, what they did, and kind of do what they did, right? You know, find a success story, not on a sales page, or maybe find it on a sales page, follow up with that person. Find a success story, find out what they're actually doing, and find out what they used to get there.
Yeah, by the way,
it might just be one course.
I can't tell you how many times I've done that when people post testimonials. I'll Google that person, and now it's so easy. Google or Facebook them, and then reach out to them. I've built tremendous relationships in all different areas of life by following up with people who've left case studies and testimonials on other people's things. And a little secret hack is that sometime, like let's say that I want to find, let's say you're teaching you're selling a course on how to do XYZ, and you post Los Silva is a testimonial who's done this. I've reached out to Los and say, hey Los, I understand you worked with Sweeney and you've done XYZ. Can you tell me about your results? And he would. And oftentimes I've gotten all I needed just from talking to that person, because they're happy to tell you what they've learned.
You can probably get that person on the phone for an hour.
For free.
For free. And they will tell you exactly how to do it and the roadmap to follow.
Right.
And if you want to take it a step further, then you could probably offer to pay them some money. And the reality is having, and that's, some of these, some side projects and stuff that I'm working on, a JIT showed this one thing once that I liked. So he's like, write down all your different ideas.
Okay.
And then kind of connect them in circles and see where the most connections are and where your kind of assets leverage to each other. So if you know someone that's extremely talented at, let's say, creating landing pages, then maybe a service business for yourself where you create landing pages for other people is a good business to go into. Why? Because you can pick up the phone and call one of the top experts on it and get the full download.
Exactly.
Some of the things that I'm looking to do, I'm doing them because I know that I have certain connections. And if I had hit a problem, hit a roadmap, I don't have to go buy a course and then dig through a course trying to find the answer. And I don't have to try to figure out what consultant to pay money to. I can just call some of my friends and I'm going to get the answer.
Right. So,
and I think that's invaluable.
So there's a I don't even know how to say this, maybe a phrase. So folks who listen to Bacon Wrap Business hear me talk about this a lot. But it's the 3.5 questions I ask myself or my clients to solve majority of business problems, or it's the very first thing I do, this process I go through. And I call them 3.5 questions because there's a who question, a what if question, and a why not question. But the first one is kind of two parts. Who else has what I need? And who else needs what I have? And that's actually 80%. It does 80% of the heavy lifting. So if you answer both, who else, and it's so elementary. I mean, this is forehead slapping obvious, but a lot of people don't ask these questions. Who else has what I need? Well, first of all, define what you need. Do you need, if you're an online marketer, do you need traffic? Do you need leads? Do you need tech? Do you need everything? Do you need capital? So who else has that? And just brain dump. Who else do you know? Who else do you know that might have that? Just list those out. And now the next thing is, and this is probably the most critical, is who else needs what I have. So who else has what I need is one side. That's what's in it for me. But then you're going to lead with who else needs what I have. And it can generate joint ventures, strategic alliances, another thing called triangulations, where I may need what this guy has over here, but he may need what you have, and you may need what I have. And there's a great way to put these together. And I naturally do this. Some people it doesn't come natural to, but the first question I always ask is that who else has what I need, needs what I have. The second part of that question is what if? All right, so and this is more brainstorming. Well, what if, is there an opportunity for me to do business with Sweeney? And if not, is there an opportunity for Sweeney to do business with somebody I know that I want to do business with? All right, well, what if? What if, what if, what if, what if, what if? Come up with, and just brain dump, you might come up with a great idea. The very last question you ask is why not? Is there a conflict of interest? Is it going to be expensive? Is there any reason that this won't work out? Is this person a jerk to deal with? But who else has what I need? Who else needs what I have? What if we collaborate in one way or the other? And then why not? And that's been so valuable to me. I've written multiple blog posts about it. I talk about it. I don't see enough people actually doing that. And it's amazing the problems you can solve with it.
Sounds like you need a Kindle quick release.
Thought about it. Planning out a book launch here in the very, very near future. Probably a best of Bacon Wrap Business, along with my thoughts and ideas and some of the best strategies that I've pulled out of my guests.
What you could do is do a, like, say it's 10 different chapters all around different subjects.
Yep.
The beginning of the chapter is kind of your spiel on it,
Yep.
and then you bring in some of the best of and do that for each one, something like that.
Yeah, and that's perfectly in line with the way that what I do with Bacon Wrap Business. So kind of back to the podcast, my strategy here. So I interview people that I want information from. I do not open this up for anybody who wants to be on the show gets to be on the show. These are only people that I may have an interest in hearing from you. And at the same time, I usually have some knowledge or an opinion on this as well. So I love to start it off saying, look, today we're going to talk about, whatever, YouTube advertising, right? And here's what I know about it. Here's why I think it's important. Here's my recommendations, and I'm bringing on somebody else to punctuate this point. I'm bringing on somebody else that I can dig deeper, who may know a little bit more about this than myself, and we're going to go down this rabbit hole. So it's a little bit of both. It's my thoughts punctuating with theirs, and the other thing that I do, on my show, and it's probably not the best thing to admit publicly, but I don't do my show for my listeners. I do my show for me. I mean, it's a free show. I do not charge my listeners to do this. And I have conversations with people that I really like, and trust, and I want something from them. And I allow my listeners to eavesdrop on our conversations. And I try to remember that they're there. I try to remember that people are listening to this, and I'll clarify topics and conversations, but I don't try to go into the most basic stuff. I don't ask all standard questions that everybody else asks. I want people to feel as though they're listening to two people who charge a lot of money to normally talk, and we may rabbit trail to really advanced strategies, but these are strategies that my listeners aren't going to get elsewhere. And if I'm going to spend an hour of my time, which is very valuable, I want to get something out of it. Now, the benefit to the listeners, and I've been told time and time again that they like this about it, that it doesn't just go super basic, that I don't just cover, the stupid things. So I think it ends up benefiting the listeners, even though they're not my first priority. My first priority is me. And as I said, maybe it's a good thing to admit, maybe it's not. But hey, let's polarize some people.
Hey, if it works, right? Now, to play off what you said about the testimonials, I kind of wrote a note on this. What I really like, and this is kind of a strategy I've told my brother, because he's kind of wants to switch careers and things like that. Mm-hmm. So with the testimonials, if you can reach out to 5 people that are, maybe running an advertising agency, for example, or maybe they're copywriters, you can ask them what they did wrong, what they did right, how they would have done it differently before you grow your business. So say maybe it's Brad's bacon copywriting tips, and I can talk to 5 people that have had success with it. They're going to say, yeah, this part's really good, focus on this, or don't do this, or don't do it this way. And by talking to people that have been there before, especially with exactly what you're doing, you're going to find out so much more and set a much better path for yourself. Now, to bring it back to the LinkedIn thing, and this might not be as applicable for kind of the entrepreneur space, but I told my brother, like, all right, before you spend 5 years trying to get a career and becoming this, director of whatever, why don't you just hit like 20 of them on LinkedIn and ask them if they like the job, what they actually do, and how they would recommend to get there? Because so often nowadays, the steps are not clear. They're not always clear. And you might think that you need a job or experience doing this, but what you really need is something else. And by interviewing people that are actually there, they're going to say, no, I don't even need this degree. All I needed was 3 years experience doing this or that, and then I got hired. And I also needed to be bilingual, or whatever the skills are.
That's a great point. I love that. So what are you most excited about? What else is going on in your business world that you're, that's kind of cool? I know you've got your consulting practice. I know you've got the podcast is kicking it and doing awesome. I'm starting to implement some of the machine tactics, so that's kind of fun. I'm getting better at funnels. I'm getting a lot better, getting much better at funnels. Right.
And I don't know, personally for me, paid advertising is just juicing me up.
Nice.
I come from a world that can be so affiliate heavy that I see the other side, and it just seems like if I can pay for it, the scalability just seems to be there so much more.
I agree.
So that's kind of what I like, what I enjoy. And tool wise, I mean, the marketplace has never been crazier, never been better. There's, I mean, even just lead pages and ClickFunnels, or you're telling me about Thrive themes.
Yeah.
It's never been easier to throw together something. Like I remember, my first ever landing page was literally a red headline, centered text.
Yep.
It was 12 font. There were some images, and it was an Aweber form, and it just said name and email.
Yeah.
And nowadays you can throw together a lead page that looks 10 times better than that in all of 2 minutes.
Yep. It's crazy, isn't it? It's things have changed. The technology has made it easier to get started, to implement. More people know how to do things. It's easier to outsource work that needs to be done. But the flip side is, and it's a balance. Certain things get easier, certain things get harder. So back in the day, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, it was really easy to make money on Google, right? But it was really a pain in the butt to create a website. So, and by the way, a lot of people weren't online. It wasn't as crowded if you were just selling something online. But the market's becoming more sophisticated. So it's easier to get things out there, but it's harder to get noticed. And it's harder to stand out. And it's harder to be unique because now, the first people who were doing video marketing were setting trends, and now anybody can really do it. And anybody can do it pretty high quality with all the tools out there. So,
podcasting.
Right, exactly. So now it's just really much more focus on the market, the quality, the presentation, but at the end of the day, it really comes down to the value that you're bringing to the people. Are you solving their problems in a way they want you to solve them, and do they trust you that you have the ability to do that? So there's no real excuses for not starting a business, for not, whether it's online or service-based business, etc. There's so many opportunities out there, but the necessity to really put some thought into it strategically, into who you are, who you serve, how you're going to deliver that, I don't think has ever been more important than right now. You really have to stand out.
I think to play off that standing out, something I see that I don't think is a big enough focus for a lot of people is design and UX, user experience. And that is like the cornerstone of most startups.
It really is. It really is.
It's not just about having the best product, it's about delivering it in the best way possible and reducing, if I can get them from 4 clicks to do something to 3 clicks to make it, this much tiny easier for them, I'm going to have more success. So I think in your own things, whatever you are doing to stand out on a brand aspect, design and user experience can certainly have a big part of that, play into that.
I agree. And, I talked about this on a previous episode of my show with Todd Brown from Automated Marketing Funnels. And we
Love that guy.
Yeah, he's awesome. And we talked about, you interviewed him as well, right before me. But one of the things we talked about, which is one of my favorite books, Scientific Advertising by Eugene Schwartz, is the 5 levels of market sophistication. I won't go into them right here, but it's really important. Go read, Scientific Advertising, or listen to the episode on Bacon Wrap Business with Todd Brown, and you'll hear us talk about it. And it's really a pertinent thing to put into play right now, more than any time that I've seen. But
I think even to that, though, the 5 levels of market sophistication, I don't know it as well, so I'll be open and honest about that. But such a big part of it is finding out, that whole customer demographic. We have analytics and tools that have never before been available to us.
Yep.
And finding out who you're actually speaking to. Is it a 20-year-old with an iPhone, or is it a 65-year-old with a Windows phone, or is it a 40-year-old with an Android phone? Do they mostly use their tablet? Are they mainly on their computer? How do they like to consume content? What TV shows do they like? I mean, all these kind of things really plays into your brand or what you should be doing as well.
It's amazing what you can figure out. I've got my podcast statistics right here. It just shows me 35% are listening on iOS, 3% are listening on Android. Wow. So 35 versus 3. Now, and my stuff's available on Stitcher. It's available on, if they've got, it's a podcast, it's out there. They can download it. They can get it on their other phone. Actually, I've got a 15% on other, so it doesn't really know what that is. 20% listen straight on iTunes. 23% listen on a browser. So exactly what you were saying is I can sit here and figure out, and that's just one little slice of my demographic. I can also take my customer list. I can find out, upload them to Facebook, find out what else they like. There's no privacy out there. As a marketer and a business builder, though, it's a great tool to really drill into what your customers like. By the way, that brings up something else, totally kind of unrelated, but it always cracks me up. I get the whole need for privacy and the NSA spying and all this other stuff, right? But I always hear people talk about how they get so mad that Facebook and other platforms are selling your information to advertisers, right? So first of all, they're not selling necessarily your name.
That's the business model,
right? And
you are the product,
right? And they're allowing advertisers like you and me and other folks to put my ads in front of you based upon your actions, right? So I don't necessarily know who you are. If it says my reach is 2 million people who have likes of this, that, and the other, I like that. I would prefer more targeted advertising as a consumer. Like, the funniest thing, and guys joke about this all the time. When you watch TV and a Summer's Eve commercial comes on, it's not targeted. Like, I'm not buying, feminine hygiene products, and I'm not buying things like this. If it would be really cool if I'm watching TV and this is coming. We all know that for a fact, that when I'm watching TV or surfing the internet, only the ads that come up are the stuff that I might be interested in, that I might buy. I'd much prefer that.
I hate when I watch football and all these stupid detective shows come on, like the advertisements and the trailers.
You're like, I don't watch those.
I just, my eyes just roll. And yeah, it's the same kind of thing. I mean, with that, you get better marketing. I think there's a balance, as far as privacy and if what they're doing is ethical or not. But at the end of the day, you signed up for Facebook. You bought a cell phone. You bought all these things. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be some rules and such, but you got to realize that there is a balance, and if you're partaking in it,
right. And in general, I just like more targeted ads, and I don't mind ads.
Yeah.
Ads do not bother me personally, because I
think most of those people, honestly, they'll complain about that.
They'll complain about anything.
They could just polarize away. They're not making money. They're not doing anything.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Complaining. I mean.
So let's do a plug for each other's show here. So for my listeners, I've already done this. I've told you to go subscribe to Digital Triggers at digitaltriggers.io on the website machine.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Triggercast is the name of the podcast itself.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought it was the same thing.
We decided to do it for that reason.
I did know that. Now that I think about it, but I always just think Digital Triggers.
Yeah, it plays off itself well.
I like it. Digital Triggers, Triggercast. Triggercast is the podcast. Digitaltriggers.io is the website. And what I like about your show, you have a lot of the same people that or at least the same caliber of people that I have. We haven't had a lot of guest overlap, but we talk about a lot of the same topics, and you do a great job of exploring, deep diving into what these people are talking about. I can tell, and your listeners can tell, that you're not just reading from 10 questions, answer this, not
I
listening.
never do that. It's funny when guests ask me for a question list, and I'm kind of like, my question list is just doing enough research on you that then when I speak to you and I can mention a business you had 5 years ago and I know enough about it that I can ask you any questions on that business.
Bingo.
It's not like, let's go through these 10 questions.
Right. Like I tell my audience on my show that, not my audience, I tell my guests, look, I'm going to ask the name of the show, or the subtitle of the show. It's for your listeners who don't know, it's Bacon Wrap Business. Sizzling hot business ideas guaranteed to make you fat. Profits. And I tell my guests before you come on the show, bring some sizzling hot business advice or ideas or tactics or strategies. Bring something that's really working, because I want it to, be these conversations so good you'd think they're wrapped in bacon. And that's really what I tell them. Just prepare to dazzle my folks. And so far, so good. But yeah, you've done a great job in asking the questions, leading them. And I always get a lot out of it. I love your Friday reloads. I know they're a lot of work curating some of the hot topics.
Not always enjoyable. Labor of love.
Right, but it's some of the best content out there. And
I would say too, for anyone, I mean, probably the best plug for either of our shows is just subscribe to it, check it out, and then just download what you find interesting. Like,
right.
I could care less if a listener's like, I only listen to 1 out of every 3 of your shows. That's fine. I just had a show with Tanner on e-commerce. If e-commerce doesn't interest you at all, of course we talk about other things, don't download it. That's fine. Like even if I go to your show, I'm a friend of yours, I'm not listening to every single podcast. You find what's interesting and you download it and you listen to those.
Exactly. And that's the point of the whole thing. And this has been fun, man.
No, I agree. And so just to real quick, so this was probably like my last note that I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
As far as for content promotion and, building kind of some buzz, if you're coming out with a new podcast.
Yep.
Number one, if you are about to launch and you're asking that, you're way too late to the game. That's kind of a given. You should build up hype before you launch something. That's why there's a reason why Tucker Max is doing with Mating Grounds. He's just blitzering out a podcast, and then he's going to have a book coming out afterwards. Mm-hmm. It's the same kind of thing. It's the reason why artists release singles. But one thing that can work really well is a giveaway. Doing a giveaway that is relevant to your target audience and doing that as a promotion and kind of promoting the giveaway and getting other people to promote the giveaway is a good way to build listeners. I know we did a giveaway of some of our products to anyone that left a review in order to get iTunes reviews, which can bump you into the new and noteworthy.
Yep. And
I know you had made it into the new and noteworthy as well, so I'm sure you pulled some strings there.
I think it was all in the power of bacon. People were surfing the podcast directory and they saw bacon. I was like, you had me at bacon.
People were hungry for the bacon.
Yeah. It's actually funny as I agree with what you said. It is a cornerstone of what I tell my clients to do. And yet on Bacon Wrap Business, I have not put together a giveaway, except for, occasionally if I transcribe the episode, I say, look, give me your email and I'll give you the transcription for this because, hey, transcriptions cost money. It helps me defer the cost on that. But it's oftentimes I don't practice what I preach in my own business. And I think you'll find that with a lot of gurus and, other folks. But it's one of the things I'm working on right now is the giveaway, really valuable giveaway for list building on my own.
Like the guy from Video Fruit, he did a giveaway of like lead pages for 10 years or something like that.
Nice.
And he broke down how many email subscribers he got, how much it cost him, just really broke down the stats and everything about it. I thought that was pretty cool and pretty interesting.
I love it. All
right. Well, Brad, thanks a lot for coming on. And thanks a lot for having me on.
Yeah, exactly. This is going to be fun. And like we said in the beginning, I'm going to share this episode with my tribe on my podcast, and you're going to do it with yours. I don't know how many other folks have done this, but I think it can be really useful. And
it'll be interesting to see the feedback.
Yeah,
we'll have to syndicate the times.
I know. And then we're going to compete with who had more downloads, who had more views.
This is true. I will have to tap into my market.
I like it. All right, well, this is Brad Costanzo from Bacon Wrap Business, and
this is Sweeney Daniel from the Triggercast by digitaltriggers.io.
I love it. If you want to get a hold of me, just go to baconwrapbusiness.com, and like you just said, digitaltriggers.io. Subscribe on iTunes to both of our shows. Come to our websites, get on our email lists. We do not spam either one of us. We just share the good stuff, and you get new episodes and training and stuff that other folks don't get. So I highly recommend it. Keep tuning in. Sweeney D, appreciate having you on, and see you in a couple months in San Diego, right?
Sounds good.
Rock and roll.
Have a good one, man.
You too. Thanks, guys.